I announce today that this is our June meeting for Davenport Park and Recreation Advisory Board, and we are in session. We have a quorum. Roll call, please.
Coiner.
Here.
Greenlee.
Here.
Who? Absent. Kefauver.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Peterson.
Here.
Powell.
Here.
Schertz.
Here.
Spratt. Here. Walker. Absent. And Whitmire.
Here.
We have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Our first agenda item is approval of the minutes, and you all received the May 2023 meeting minutes, and we'll take a minute and I will entertain motion to approve, or we'll enter any questions that might be needed at this time.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
It's been moved by Krista and seconded by Yes, Leah, to approve the May 18th minute meetings. Those signifying yes, say yes.
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 I will say we have no no's or abstentions at this time, correct? Okay. They have been passed. Thank you very much. Today there are no public comment because there are no publics to comment, right? And we'll move on then to actually staff reports. There is no new business, no old business, and staff reports is where we will proceed. And so, Chad?
Sure.
Yep.
Well, first of all, we're going to take a moment here to recognize a departing member of our illustrious Park Advisory Board. Miss Leah Spratt is no longer going to continue to serve, but we appreciate her years of service to the board. How many years? 6 or 7. That's very impressive. So you will be missed, and but we wanted to recognize and Madam Chair, if you have any words you want to elaborate on before you throw it back to me. Otherwise,
well, I think it's very important that we recognize our advisory board members when they do leave us for one reason or another. And this has been one dedicated secretary for us. She actually ran for the office several times, assisted us greatly, and I appreciate that. And I also think she and her family have been regular participants of many of our events, and I'm going to miss seeing your children grow up because I see you at those events with your husband, and I think that's great. Yes, yes. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Anything to add? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Say anything. Yes, I've had a great time. I've learned so much. I didn't realize how many people it takes to run like the Parks and Recreation Board. Or not the board, just the whole system is just like, I love how meeting all the staff was really great idea to come in, and all your events you do for everybody, like all the populations, like adults, children, just like great, special. You guys do a great job. I really appreciate the opportunity to even be here and learn so much about how this is run and stuff. Thank you. And I think I've enjoyed working with everyone on the board. Jerry, I think, started when I started, and we've been on a couple of committees together, and Wendy as well.
Yes,
and then
we
just getting, family things. So yeah. Well, maybe I'll stop. I'm sure I'll see you at Party in the Park, or here and there. I will still attend all the events because I really enjoy them. So I will miss it. I will miss it too. You're a great note taker. I'm sure. So yes, thank you.
Well, thank you, Leah. We appreciate it. So, okay, moving on. Next month, many of you have probably heard, we have been investigating the opportunity to potentially transition to a second sheet of ice at River's Edge. So we've been doing exploratory testing of the old system to see if it's still viable. We are about 90% done with that, and so far everything is checked out good. So next month we will have a presentation on that process and an update with further details to share with you guys. The Leah mentioned Party in the Park kicks off tonight. Right after this, we're at Lafayette Park. And then next week, we will be at Marquette. And then we skip July and come back for the final 2 parties in the park in August, which will be at Garfield and then conclude at Emice. So only 4 of them this year, and they've been there's been a shift because of they've grown so much that they've sort of outgrown neighborhood parks, which was the original sort of intent. But they are so popular that we've worked to just put them in community parks, larger park settings to accommodate the crowds that have been attending. So hence also the July is a rather busy month for special events in the community with RAGBRAI and the BICS. So that's why we're taking July off and concluding on them in August. The other update, I gave you guys the renderings, and we had the presentation last month on DOSE, the Splash and Play project, that the plans and specs have been completed, and they will be on committee of the whole for council approval next week. Once that happens, we'll be able to bid the project and hopefully start construction sometime late summer, early fall, and then have it wrapped up and ready to go for next year for a May opening in 2024. And then lastly, we are starting to work on a fundraising campaign I met with staff earlier this week and had talked to some of the administrative team regarding fundraising to potentially replace the clubhouse at Emice. So I will have more information on that as we sort of get into that process, and there'll be obviously anyone who's interested, there'll be opportunities to participate. We're about 4 or 5 years out from our last major fundraising campaign, which was the Miracle Field, if you remember. So it's something that's desperately needed, and the condition of the clubhouse and how it impacts the golf course operation. Rock Island recently upgraded Highland Springs. They are a quasi-competitor of ours, so we need to sort of keep up. There's also an opportunity with First Tee doing programming out at Emice now. They participated in the fundraising for Highland, and they're interested in doing so at Emice to get a classroom space for their programming and some other stuff. So there'll be some potential good partnerships and collaborations through that process. So that's what I have for you all.
Questions for Chad? 2 things that you did mention is I wanted to say thanks for sending the Rock Island Nature Play material that we could download in itty bitty print. But back to Pine Glass, I know where it is. And I think when I first looked at that, it's got a designated spaces. You know, there's music and, dance. There's a theater, great active play that's there. And so if you have a chance to match up the numbers and see it all, there's a lot of great exploration that will happen there. And the last thing that was in the notes was, and you mentioned ice, the ice show that had to be delayed because of the flood was delightful. And it's the figure skating club of the Quad Cities plus Learn to Skate that came together. And they were all set to go, and a week before the show, great practicing, and then it was halted. And so to see it happen and another recovery effort, it was delightful. And so I want to say thanks a lot for allowing that to reschedule and to move on. It was great.
Speaking of recovery, I would add one last thing. Credit Island, access has been restored. Kudos to our team in forestry for getting in there and cleaning, and Public Works for rocking it in the temporary fashion so we can get access. We are going to explore, obviously, a permanent solution again to asphalting that and looking at our flood funds and see where we can go with that. But just wanted to make that note that Credit Island is open. The lodge is not open yet. We need to have some environmental cleaning of it come in, and Betsy is working through that right now. So, but at least access to the island's been restored.
They did that on the Today Show in the break for Quad City News, and there was several pictures of Credit Island, and so it was announced it was open and ready to explore again. So. And
then Betsy's going to walk you through. We have some images of some completed projects, so I'm going to let Betsy talk a little bit about what you're seeing up on your screen.
Yeah. So we'll move on to staff reports and good pictures. Thanks.
So yeah, the first picture that you see there is Whalen Park. That is in the northwest quadrant of the city. Easiest landmark is behind the Iowa Machine Shed. Brand new playground there. This was funded through ARPA, so no tax dollars at work there, but really fun playground. Helped all the ARPA playgrounds were presented to school-age kids here in the community, and they helped choose those. So you may see a little bit different design than what staff would normally pick, which is great. So this one is out at Whalen Park, so it is ready for play. This unit is at Emice Park. This is an obstacle style playground, similar to the one that we put in down at Sunderbrook that was just ridiculously popular. So this one is a new addition to the park. You will see to the right there that the old playground is still there. This also was ARPA funded. If in design is a fully inclusive and accessible playground to replace the existing playground there. So we are not done there with improving the play options for kids. But when I went out today, even it's only literally been open 12 hours, kids were playing on it, and I kind of had to wait until their backs were turned or they were far enough away so I could take the picture without getting the kids in it. But so this one is out at Emice. That's real nice. Yeah, it turned out really well. In this project, you will recognize the Surratt statues in the back. River Action is a great partner of ours. And they had a very active member pass away, and they wanted a memorial of some sort. So decided to do a walking path there. So those were installed this morning. Obviously, they're backfilled right now with dirt. Those that will be grass seeded, but it provides access off of both the rec trail there, as well as there, you can't see them in the picture, but there are 3 stepping stones on the other side of the Surratt statues off of the river walk. So as far as our contribution, it's the labor to install, but River Action does all of the fundraising. That bench, or that pad where staff is standing, there will be a bench there to overlook the statues as well as the river. So really nice addition there. I think that's been moving the statues. It was hard, I mean, they were kind of an icon down at the island, but this has just been a really good move for the statues, for people to be able to see them and enjoy that amenity in our parks.
Looks great. It looks just awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have written staff reports, and all I wanted to put was, wow, lots of action, capitals all the way along. Lots has happened. And even though we're in a drought kind of thing, probably some of it was good weather conditions that helped some of that happen. So are there any things there that you want to expand upon? We just saw the only other thing at Whalen Park is getting the pathway working on, correct?
Yeah, the pathway, the bids came back over budget, so we are going to revise those and rebid sometime this fall in hopes of getting better favorable bid conditions and getting that project done.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Chris? Yeah.
The court that's going into, was it Lafayette? Are they rebidding that, or why is the bid turnaround too long for pay, or what's going on with the city when it comes to construction workers and the turnaround for pay, and why they're so high? Because I was listening to people for the Dream Project, and like the numbers were outrageous, like the bids that are going through.
I think it's just the market. Part of it, yes. Well, to answer your initial, the multi-sport courts, we will rebid. Same sort of issue. That's an ARPA project. That one was probably more timing. We bid it late spring. And a lot of times, the ideal time to bid is sort of winter because all the contractors are lining up their work for the next year. So it's more competitive and their pricing tends to be better. So for example, with the multi-sport courts, we only had one response. Only one contractor even offered a bid. And it was about 40% over what the estimate is. And it's one of those things where they're probably just throwing a number out there, fitting it into their schedule if they can. And, but yeah, we are seeing that across the board, street projects, everything else. Like it's just the labor market is really, really high, I would say.
I guess the last question is, what's the turnaround for their pay after completing the project?
So they're paid during the course of the project as they do submittals as work is done. Okay. So it's not like the project is completed and then one lump sum is paid out. There's pay applications during the course of the project, but we pay, what is it, 10-day cycle upon an invoice? Yeah.
So it's not like a couple years ago where they were like 2-year turnaround?
Oh, no.
Oh, thank
no.
I've had questions because I've been trying to get people to bid for the city, and I'm like, have construction workers look and get more involved, and they keep saying the same thing. They still think it's a 2-year turnaround for their pay, and so perhaps, if we got the word out or we get more people bidding proper numbers, taxpayer money would go farther. These funds.
Yeah.
That's all. Thanks.
Yeah.
What I will say that is not just the labor, but material is still through the roof. I went and bid a deck. Just the wood was $9,000. Mm-hmm. Well, what deck is this? Oh, just the wood. So a lot of it, I think, has to do with that. But a 2-year turnaround, that's crazy. It should be net 90. Otherwise, normally the higher ups get involved because it starts going to collections and things. So wow, I never knew it was 2 years. That's a lot. So
well, not anymore, I guess. So
yeah, well, yeah. Incremental is pretty typical as the project kind of goes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Chris, comment?
Yeah, I had a question about the park ambassador thing. Is that the paid position that oversees that? I didn't see anything on the website for an opening for that, or is that a volunteer position?
No, that is a paid position, and that is listed in the general application right on the front page of the Human Resources job opportunities. There's a seasonal parks and recreation job application, and it is listed within there. So no, it is a paid position. It works. What we've found when we've interviewed individuals that have indicated interest is they're not real interested in the second shift work as well as it's every weekend. So that's been a challenging position for us to fill.
Other questions? If not, we'll move on to Chris and the report from the Riverfront Improvement Commission.
Excuse me. Yes, there wasn't a huge amount of stuff in their meeting. They're working on setting up their joint work session with the City Council like we had over at the police station. They also are still laying out different responsibilities of the new Riverfront Engagement Coordinator, which is a position that replaces some of what Steve Aarons was doing, whereas some of his more administrative upper-level work has been moved to the administrative liaison. And the Riverfront Improvement Coordinator has been hired, and she's in charge of more event-based stuff, all the stuff to do with the cruise boats. Red, White, and Boom is a big thing. I'm sure she's working with Chad probably. And then all the RAGBRAI planning, she's involved in that. And then I think maybe as summer winds down and all the events slow down a little bit, then that Riverfront Engagement Coordinator will get more involved in more strategic planning type stuff. And then we also got an update on kind of flood stuff. As of May 23rd, when we had our meeting, all the tenants were back in. They weren't all necessarily back open yet. And then the Riverfront Improvement Commission was looking at abating all the rent during the time that they couldn't operate down there at the freight house and stuff. And yeah, I think now the LeClaire Park looks pretty much back to normal, and the flood is kind of a distant memory with everything that's going on. So everything, as far as we've been told at Riverfront Improvement, and it seems like the flood has been mostly recovered from, aside from some stuff at Credit Island.
Thank you. Any questions for Chris?
Did they say how Duluth's doing, the restaurant?
They didn't. Yeah, I know I was there like the first week they were open, and they were doing quite well, but then with the flood, I'm not sure how they've withstood that, but I think they have a pretty good community support, so hopefully well, because I need to get back down there.
Jerry?
Yeah, are we still, now that the railroads have made their contracts together, and obviously there's going to be more trains coming through there, has anything changed for the city of Davenport at all along that riverfront area since they've made the agreement, or is everything going the same way as what they had agreed to at first?
The only thing I'm purview to that I'm aware of is part of that agreement funding will do some quiet zone work through there. So that I think is being designed now.
So the park area will be continued?
Oh yeah, the Main Street Landing area.
Yeah,
we are continuing to work with Sasaki. I'm part of that team with a couple others, and it's still at a conceptual level. But I would anticipate a second round of public engagement probably sometime in August, based on the concept that's being on work. But yeah, that continues to be in process.
Okay, that's good. I have one more thing, but I can wait until we have our own conversations, but I want to talk about the baseball diamonds. I'll do that now or later.
Well, are we ready to move on to advisory time? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shall we do so? Are we okay with the staff reports and ready to move on to advisory time? I see yes. So,
comment I'd like to make. I did appreciate the photographs. The written reports are obviously great, but it's hard to get around to see all the parks. So that's a great touch, and especially for key updates or new construction. So I look forward to more of those in the future if possible.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably do that, some of that with our bus trip in the fall. Yeah, right? It is going to be fall, and we are going to go out and see some of those sites so you can play and explore. No, that's valuable, very valuable. Yeah. Thanks for that comment. Moving on to advisory board. Time. Jerry?
I got three questions. Tell me what's going on with EMI's baseball. Is it over, or do we need to contact people, or I've been hearing that everything's being moved to Northwest.
So this season, West Emice Little League did not have enough kids registered to hold an independent league. So they did merge temporarily with North Little League, which is housed at Ridgeview Park. They have not changed their charter. They have kept their charter. So I would anticipate it being an off-season conversation with all 5 little leagues together, because it's not as simple as that. They're allowed to do this on a 1-year, option, but long-term, just saying, hey, we're going to combine leagues. There's a process that needs to go through to go through the charter.
Well,
so
I don't know how much I want to get involved in that, but to let 3 diamonds sit up there and do absolutely nothing does not make sense to me. And so what I'd like to know if you could send me an email or send me the contact people of the baseball people, because I'd like to talk to some of them. Because I can't believe that in the West End that there aren't enough kids to create teams. Something is wrong there.
We can certainly give you the contact information.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, Betsy and I have had this conversation. Like, the last thing we want is public assets to just sit empty and unused, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's not only the kids. I think part of the issue with West Emice is volunteerism. They haven't really had parental interest in a board, from my understanding, or the volunteers to run the league for the last couple of years. Some of the kids we know have gone to 180, who operates a league. But I'm not sure about East Little League or North, or their numbers, but obviously the Southeast and Northwest are very strong. The numbers have always been really, really strong. But yeah, it's a combination, I think, of volunteerism and interest, but I agree, Jerry. Like, there's no reason the West End can't support a league, or should be able to.
I mean, if they're excellent kids that are going off on these travel teams, so forth, but there's a lot of kids that are not elite baseball players, and they should have the right to come out and play baseball as well.
And just a point of reference, just so the rest of the advisory board, so you guys understand. So Little League, all the leagues are chartered by the National Little League Association. There is a Little League, I don't know what his title is, but district manager, but it's entirely separate from the Parks Department, right? Like, we don't have any oversight short of allowing access and use of the facilities, right? So we can give you the contacts, but I mean, we've had these conversations with them, and like Betsy said, it'll likely be an off-season conversation again.
I would like,
because they would need to redo their boundaries, essentially, if they want to combine a league, and that takes like all 5 willing to agree to that change, which is a challenge to get all 5 leagues to sort of.
Northwest isn't going to let it go anything any more than they have to, and that's where the issue is to a certain point. But I think what we need to do there is have a meeting with all of those officials that are involved in that, and let's discuss what we can do to make this thing work all around. Yeah. And I think that's what we need to do. So if you get me that information, I would sure appreciate it.
Be happy to.
And while we're talking about Emice baseball, there's that metal building out there, or that what do you call them, a container?
The storage area.
Storage container.
Yeah.
One of your guys come out and finally painted all the muck that's always off of it. They did it yesterday. I talked to him yesterday, so I appreciate you doing that. I was just on my way up with a can of spray paint that can spray over it, and here he was up there painting it. But if that's not being used, and it doesn't have to do it right now, there is no reason for that thing to even be there. I don't know what's in it. And that's the other thing about talking to the Little League up there to see what's up there. I mean, we got a perfectly good concession stand up there, which is really cool. I understand, I just found out that the bathrooms up there just got completely destroyed. That probably happened in the middle of the night. And somehow or another, we need to figure out a way to close them thing up at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock at night. I don't know. I'm not saying that's when it was, but I would say it would be. But it's not only happened at Emice, it's probably happened other places. But I mean, it's just I don't know how to figure out a way to end that. And I'm not even gonna say where it's coming from. Doesn't make any difference. It's just that we gotta somehow or another fix that, and the only way to fix it is close it. But I don't want it closed all day long either. That's not what it's there for, so. Okay, and then one more thing, and then I'm done. We have perfectly good tennis courts out at Imais, which they're in pretty good shape, not bad. But I'm not sure if pickleball is really getting to be big now. And Northwest is really drawing a lot of people for pickleball. Well, I would think that the overflow could probably go to Imais. So is there any possible way that we could, down the road, hook up with some pickleball there too as well?
Yeah, we can certainly explore that. There's two approaches. One, standalone courts, or you can paint pickleball lines on existing tennis courts.
I'd say paint the lines on the existing.
Typically, you would start there, and I would recommend that probably for Imais, because pickleball and tennis participation, I mean, they're sort of at opposite ends of, as pickleball grows, more and more tennis courts are being consumed, so there's less access for tennis players, so they don't like pickleball play. Like, it's a love-hate sort of thing. But those being our furthest west tennis multi-court, like, I wouldn't abandon them strictly for pickleball, but we can do lines and make it an opportunity. So
that needs to be freshened up a little bit too as well. And I think that might draw some more people to as well.
We have we put in a request in the CIP plan, the capital improvement plan, to do every other year hard court for all our hard court surfaces, just to be able to come in and freshen them up, do crack repair lines, both tennis, pickleball, and basketball courts in the city. So that'll help us freshen a lot of those up here in the future.
Thanks, Jerry. Vera is next in line. Thank you.
Did you have a follow-up, Jerry?
Yeah.
Wait, Jerry had a follow-up.
I'm sorry.
The trails going up through Imais, up through there. Anything more we hear about that?
Still in design.
Okay, thank you. That's it. I'm done.
Oh, right. Thank you. It's good. You are the overseer of Imais. He needs a little badge, a special badge saying, "Oh, here he comes." No, I appreciate your comments.
We get that one.
You're right on it.
We go to the next one.
Yeah, you're right on it. Farah, comments?
So just kind of thinking like I always do when there's an issue or when Jerry has questions. I was thinking those baseball diamonds, I remember growing up, we spent every Sunday and Wednesday at Credit Island, there were adult leagues. And when those went away, it seemed like all the adult leagues kind of dissipated. So I wonder if you can't figure out who, like they have the volleyball thing that's really grown, and maybe put adult leagues up there. Then you'll have kids come and watch, and it gets them more involved. I know that there are a lot of kids in that area as well, but cost is a huge factor. If you go out and look at the cost of gloves, as well as you have parents working, they can't get them to practice, or they, something else, that's the last kind of thing on their mind. But if you get these kids there and they're watching, you may see that kind of circle back at the end. So do we know, are there any adult leagues, or is that not an option?
You want me to take it? All right. It is an option on the large field up there. So the other two won't accommodate. They're too small for adult play. But I think as we work through the process, obviously, if there is no need for Little League, or there's going to be decreased use, yes, we'll start to explore alternative uses for those. And adult leagues would be one. Wiffle ball leagues.
Well, yeah, there's
adult wiffle ball leagues.
Even, I'll tell you, we've been up there on the field
kickball.
Before kickball. When you get over a certain age, it's kickball. In the baseball, I can't see it coming. So
yeah, I mean, we want to be thoughtful and work with the little leagues first, and try to help where we can to keep them going, because they are have served the community and kids for such a long time, and this is really a Little League community. So, but yeah, I mean, if it's not going to work, then we definitely need to find a way to repurpose and utilize those fields.
Thank you to everyone. Do we have other topics that we need? Yes, Chris.
I just, we stopped down at Harbor Road Park and checked out the new playground down there, and my kids were very impressed. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And then my son is in East Little League, and I know it's down, I think, one team in his division or whatever from last year, but they've, last year and this year, played a lot of games back and forth with Northwest, both at Northwest Park and at Garfield. So that seems like an interesting future. Like, I kind of like the idea of having home games at your park, and then away games, potentially you could have cooperation among different ones. I know they had a city tournament that included North, Northwest, and East, and I saw not Southeast and not West. I didn't realize West wasn't its own league this year. So there's obviously maybe one stumbling block to cooperation missing from that, but the fancy Southeast folks. But yeah, I would definitely be on board with, I could see parks trying to facilitate some sort of cooperation between these leagues to benefit the whole city, whereas they may not have an incentive to work together necessarily. But, and then, like I think we mentioned last month in the Parks Guide, it should link to baseball in some way. If it's not, you know, if the city isn't providing hardball youth baseball as an option, then it seems like there's no harm or competition to city leagues to say, and here's some, and I guess you could mention 180 as well. And I know that they are providing all the equipment and no registration fees in their league, so I know that's why they're taking a chunk out of Little League. But yeah, I think the parks could at least let people know that there's these options for baseball.
Thank you. Krista?
For the last 2 years, the parks in Third Ward, the basketball courts specifically, do not look good. And we constantly have people on those courts. It's really important that we paint them to show that we care. So I'm going to say that, and also something that some people know on the board is that there used to be a pool in downtown Davenport, and there's not. Is there ever going to be one? Because I'd like a place to go swimming locally. It'd be awesome, especially after playing basketball.
So to your first question, that hard court CIP program, that's exactly what's going to fund those improvements. So the Centennial basketball courts will get addressed through that program. As far as the pool, I've had zero conversations about a downtown pool. I don't know where or, I mean, it's certainly worth exploring, but you're the first to request it. So, I would caution though, given our current staffing issues with our other two pools, that would just be my only caution, but we can certainly explore and see if there's an opportunity to do so. I know there will be some water play element in Main Street Landing, not necessarily a pool, but some sort of splash or water area. But yeah, the natatorium used to be right down on the river, you know, right? Yeah.
I'd like to see
years
that
ago,
happen.
long time ago.
That would be great.
So the pool all those years ago was torn out because of the river. When it floods, it doesn't just sit on the pavement, and it works that ground around. Even if it doesn't get to that specific location, if it's a mile down, it's still like a domino effect. And I think, if I remember right, what I was told, my grandfather worked for the city, was that it was the upkeep was so costly, the repairs, and that's why it was torn out down there.
I can't believe they put it in that location to begin with, because that's you know, that's but yeah.
That's even before Betsy's time, which is saying a lot, so, yeah, maybe.
No.
Then I think, the old Y probably used to serve a purpose with their pool, but when it relocated further down off of River and Third, it's not downtown anymore. So, yeah, there could be definitely a need for a natatorium somewhere in the downtown area.
That'd be great.
Preferably maybe an indoor pool.
That would be nice. Well, we could all go to the Y. I mean, that's the closest pool now is the Y.
Yeah. Or we can convert an ice rink to a pool or two.
Oh, well, no, you add a pool, yeah. Yeah.
Fill
no.
in the skate park.
It's pretty exciting. I've heard lots of rumbles about second sheet of ice would be a reality, but it'll be great to see anyhow. These are great comments. We usually don't have time to just mull over thoughts and ideas, and so your list got longer over there, I think, and ways to go. So that's wonderful. We are nearing the end of our time, but before we adjourn, we need to say to everybody, make sure, board members, that you have our advisory board meetings on your calendar. It will be very important with Leah and the Jody's leaving that we are ready to have a quorum, on a regular basis. So keep those on your calendar. And that is important. It isn't that they're not going to be replaced. We're working on that, right? You're going to recruit someone? Yes? That'd be great. But it is, it's needed, so make sure you've got them on the calendar. Our next meeting is July 20th, and so may we have rain before then, I will say. And I will entertain a motion for adjournment if we're done with discussion and want to move on.
So moved.
Okay, a second?
I second that.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn our meeting for today. Those indicating yes, say yes.
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 Anybody opposing? I hear none. I hope we have some time to freshen up. We're going to party in the park, 90 degrees, and we'll be out in the sunshine soon. So I think we can only go out the back door now. Yeah, back exit. So have a great day and weekend and 4th and all that's coming up. So be well and off you go. Thanks. What?
Just real quick, I know we're adjourned, but July is Parks and Rec Month in RPA, so we have a whole slew of stuff. Be on the lookout through our social media and other things to highlight Parks and Rec through the month of July.
Oh, good.
There'll be a proclamation at the July 5th City Council meeting honoring Parks and Rec Professionals Day, so thought you should know.
Right, thank you. That's good. Yes, yes. Participate, right? Yes. Wow.